Tonight,
the Senate shall proceed with the trial.
House prosecutors make their case in the second impeachment trial of former President Donald Trump. Their argument for conviction. Plus,
maybe we have kind of gotten so trapped and caught up into the whole political piece that we have just kind of missed the real assignment.
The debate over how people of faith should engage in politics. And the latest on the coronavirus crisis in America. All this and more tonight on Faith Nation.
Laying out the case for conviction. Welcome to Faith Nation. I'm John Jessup.
And I'm Jenna Browder. Thanks for joining us. The Senate trial for the second impeachment of Donald Trump now officially underway. Today, House impeachment managers began arguing their case against the former president, who's accused of inciting an insurrection for his role in the deadly Capitol Hill riots on January 6th.
The burden now lies on the House managers, who are trying to convince at least 17 Republicans to join Democrats in the 50-50 Senate and vote to convict. A tall and unlikely order. Nonetheless, House managers took to the Senate floor today to try and sway some support.
Capitol Hill correspondent Abigail Robertson is following the trial and begins our coverage tonight. Abigail, how did House Democratic managers lay out their case today?
Well, today, the House impeachment managers made the case that the siege of the Capitol was not just the result of one speech on January 6th, but that it was weeks and months in the making from President Trump himself. They went back to tweets and quotes from speeches dating back to the spring, when they say President Trump first started saying to his supporters that if he loses the November election, will only be because the election was stolen or rigged. They also mentioned how it was no coincidence that Trump invited his supporters to Washington, D.C. on January 6th and timed that rally to start just hours before the 2020 election was going to be certified for President Joe Biden at the Capitol. They argued that the violence was foreseeable. Trump knew exactly what he was encouraging, and he knew what he was inciting people to do. Take a look.
Now, some have said that President Trump's remarks, his speech on January 6th, was just a speech. Well, let me ask you this. When in our history has a speech led thousands of people to storm our nation's capital with weapons, to scale the walls, break windows, kill a Capitol police officer? This was not just a speech.
The prosecution also pointed out that it wasn't until hours into the siege that President Trump finally told the rioters to go home, adding that he loved them.
Abby, the House managers have an awfully high hurdle in trying to win over 17 Republicans, but it seems like Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell is kind of leaving the door open to GOP senators who could be swayed.
That's right, John. While we saw 44 Republicans vote yesterday that the trial itself was unconstitutional, including Minority Leader McConnell, McConnell reportedly told Republican senators that just because they voted the trial as unconstitutional does not mean they need to vote to acquit President Trump. He said that the final impeachment vote should be a vote of conscience. And this is something that House impeachment managers are definitely taking note of. And in their arguments, they're reminding GOP senators of times that President Trump has turned his ire on them.
This was President Trump's statement the night before the attack. I should say this was one of his dozens of statements on Twitter in the hours leading up to the attack. I hope the Democrats, and even more importantly, the weak and ineffective rhino section of the Republican Party, are looking at the thousands of people pouring into D.C. They won't stand for a landslide victory to be stolen. At Senate Majority Leader, at John Cornyn, at Senator John Thune.
Minority Leader McConnell signaled himself a few weeks ago that he has not made up his mind on how he will vote whether or not to convict President Trump. But there are many Republican senators who still say there's no way 17 Republicans break with their party to convict him.
Abby, another theme we heard a lot today was about intimidation, both by the former president and by his followers.
Yes, House impeachment managers showed a few examples of what happened to elected Republican officials when they did not do the will of President Trump. They pointed in particular to the Georgia Secretary of State, a man who refers to himself as a constitutional conservative Christian who voted for President Trump and even donated to his campaign. Take a look.
On November 11th, Republican Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger confirmed that he believed ballots were accurately counted for Biden. Trump went on a relentless attack. Here are just a few examples. In all, Trump tweeted at Raffensperger 17 times in the coming week. I'll show you just a few. Calling him a disaster, obstinate, not having a clue, being played for a fool, and being a so-called Republican. All because Raffensperger was doing his job, ensuring the integrity of our elections. And these attacks had consequences. Mr. Raffensperger and his family received death threats.
Now, Georgia prosecutors have opened a criminal investigation into Trump's call with the Secretary of State, where he told him to find the votes for him in Georgia. John, Jenna?
All right, Capitol Hill correspondent Abigail Robertson, thank you very much.
Thanks, Abby. Joining us now is senior Washington correspondent Jennifer Wishon. Jennifer, the House managers have made it a point today to bring up old Trump tweets and videos of the former president, casting him as the insider-in-chief and using his own words against him. I should also mention today, Twitter announcing a permanent ban on the president, even if he is to run for office again. Jennifer, does this make it more difficult for Trump's legal team to counter-argue using his own words against him?
Well, this is the evidence, right? I mean, we knew this was all going to be played out. This is what the House managers have to use. But here's the thing. Every senator in that room has followed every tweet of Donald Trump's presidency. Certainly, they have gone back and watched his January 6th speech preparing for this. So nothing's really new there. And I mean, in terms of Trump's defense here, they're using a constitutional defense. They're saying, look, what he said is protected by the First Amendment, and he did not incite a riot. That's their defense. So I think there's kind of really no secret there. Everyone kind of already knew what Trump said, and quite frankly, we wouldn't be even talking about what Trump has said or tweeted if a number of his supporters didn't go and storm the Capitol.
Jennifer, as Abigail was reporting, Mitch McConnell has signaled to GOP senators that at the end of the day, they should vote their conscience. The House managers have had some pretty compelling video to aid their arguments. Do you think there's any way they could pull off 17 Republican votes for conviction?
I still don't think they're going to get to 17. And here's the thing. This video is really hard to watch. It's really emotional. But every senator in that room lived it. I mean, it's not like they're seeing this for the first time or hearing about it for the first time. They were there. They felt the fear. They felt the confusion. They felt the anger, I'm sure, about what was happening. And yet, after opening day, we only saw one U.S. Senator, Louisiana Republican Bill Cassidy, change his vote about the constitutionality of what's going on. So I don't think they're going to get to 17. I think that Mitch McConnell is smart to tell his members to vote their conscience, if for no other reason than that in 2022, a number of them are up for re-election, and including some in battleground states. And I think that they have to have that freedom to, for their own conscience, but also looking ahead to 2022 about a vote that could potentially damage them politically.
Keeping an eye on the next election. Jennifer, on day one, we heard from Trump's legal team, including Bruce Castor. His performance has been widely panned, and there's reporting that suggests Donald Trump was not pleased. Jennifer, if the outcome is pretty much predetermined, is the ultimate jury here really the court of public opinion?
Absolutely, John. I think that is the most important factor right now. And we talked about this when Donald Trump was impeached the first time and going through his trial, that the most important juror was the American people. And I think that is also the case here, because if these Republican senators start getting a lot of pressure from their constituents, that could make a difference in that conscience vote that we just talked about. But as it stands now, I think without that pressure, we're not going to see 17 Republicans vote with Democrats, but Americans are very important here. And that emotional video that we're seeing that is so hard to watch, that certainly has to be making a difference with some Americans watching this, if they're watching.
Yeah. All right, Jennifer Wishon, thank you so much. It's good to have you.
Thank you.
Should faith and politics mix? Why the issue is dividing one West Virginia town when Faith Nation returns.
To have a sex before you marry is a bad idea.
Don't tell me there's no such thing as gun violence.
That just depends on your definition of when life begins.
Watch Dan and Dale tackle trending topics that test your faith on the next Faith Wire, Monday night at 9:30. The Global Lane takes you around the world, providing facts over fiction.
What might rising trade and geopolitical tensions mean for you on the home front?
With over 45 years of experience, award-winning journalist Gary Lane brings you the truth from a global angle.
What about the issue of immigration?
World news analysis you won't see anywhere else.
And it's all right here on the Global Lane.
Watch The Global Lane, Thursday night at 9:30.
Welcome back. Well, for decades, evangelicals have played a major role in American politics. But following the 2020 election, some are asking if that should continue.
That's right, Jenna. It is a question dividing one West Virginia city where three different congregations are trying to find the answer.
As Caitlin Burke reports, they have very different views on how Christians should engage in American politics.
If you take a poll in Bluefield, West Virginia, most would identify as Christian, and a majority would also consider themselves Republican. That could be where the similarities stop, because political division has caused tension, especially among three of the main churches in town.
Our views of President Trump and this whole fiasco that we have dealt with the last 4 years, we have just been at opposites with that.
Frederick Brown pastors Faith Center Church. He's grown concerned about the messaging he hears coming from 3 miles up the road.
With all love and due respect to my brother, I just feel that he has been completely out of order. I believe that he has said things publicly that just were not biblical.
He's talking about Pastor Doyle Bradford of Father's House International Church and a vocal backer of former President Donald Trump, both online and from the pulpit.
As a minister of the gospel, I do not want to be shut out of the public arena. I do have freedom of speech and freedom of religion, and it's my personal belief that America is going in a direction that will cause great harm to America.
Bradford has been vocal about abortion, transgender issues, and accusations of fraud during the 2020 presidential election. He also attended the January 6th Save America rally in Washington. Other pastors in town worry his fiery rhetoric is stoking divisiveness while also distracting from the church and its gospel message.
My concern is how maybe we have kind of gotten so trapped and caught up into the whole political piece that we have just kind of missed the real assignment that we have to people.
I'm a man of God who loves Jesus and loves my country and loves all the pastors and the people of my town. I went to the march. Don't lump me in to being a white nationalist and a racist because I went to the march.
Bradford argues his role as a pastor and Christian should not disqualify him from the public square.
Both congregants and pastors agree on one area: the need for unity, reconciliation, and healing.
There's so many people hurting, whether it be, the racial issue or the political issue, religious issues. We need to find, a way to open up ourselves and come together, or, we're all going to fall.
Caitlin Burke, CBN News.
Thank you, Caitlin. Justin Giboney is an attorney, political strategist, and co-founder of the AND Campaign, a group focused on spreading the gospel through civic and cultural engagement. Justin, welcome back to Faith Nation. Just watching Caitlin's story there, the split in the body of Christ is unlike any time I've ever witnessed in my own lifetime. Justin, should faith and politics mix?
Yes, faith and politics should mix. Christians should be involved in politics, but we've got to do it a lot better. We got to make sure that our involvement is based on Christian principles and not based on our political affiliation or the type of indoctrination that we kind of saw in that story. Our primary objective in politics should be to love our neighbors and to realize that politics is important, but it isn't an ultimate thing. And so we should use our voice and our public witness to protect human dignity, to promote the best interests of our neighbors, and really to pursue justice and a type of moral order that's helping those around us. It shouldn't just be about power.
We know, politics obviously very divisive. Practically speaking, how can people of faith hold tight to their religious beliefs and be politically engaged, and at the same time extend that to others and understand that they have their beliefs too?
I think we have to enter into those conversations with a level of humility. We need to know when the Bible speaks directly to a certain issue and where we need to stand based on that, and then when the Bible doesn't speak directly to something. But one thing that we can't do is allow our political affiliation to become religious in nature, to kind of conflate our political ideology with our theology. We should always be about compassion and also conviction. But again, we have to emphasize those biblical principles rather than emphasizing partisanship.
Oftentimes, Justin, when the conversation moves to politics, it gets reduced to a few talking points like abortion or the LGBTQ issues. Is it important to expand the discussion beyond a few hot button topics?
There are so many issues that we have to address. Now, we never want to dismiss, again, those biblical principles that we need to stand on, but we also need to conduct ourselves with compassion. I think too often Christians just talk about what we're against and what we're trying to stop, but we're not talking about what we're for. We're for children coming out of poverty. We're for immigrants being treated fairly, and so on. And so we need to make the case in many instances based on what we're for and how we can love and care for those who disagree with us, because we have to realize that at the end of the day, it's just not about winning political battles. It's also about evangelizing. And when we mistreat people or come off as very negative all the time, it makes it much harder, to reach out to people.
You tweeted this week, Justin, identifying which party handles a certain issue or most issues better is important. However, partisans want that to be the only question. Explain what you mean.
What really happens on both sides of the aisle is they will say, look at the Republicans or look at the Democrats and look what they do bad. They're against you on the one issue that you care most about. And they expect from you making that determination that you're going to agree with the party that you agree with on one issue on everything else. And I think that's a terrible way for Christians to look at politics. Christians should look at politics issue by issue and say, hey, the Republicans might get this issue right, but they get this other issue wrong. And when they get something wrong, I'm going to be willing to challenge and correct my party if I need to. But we don't take one issue, even if it's very important, and let that justify the whole platform, which has a lot of other issues involved with it.
Finally, I want to give you one more opportunity. You talked about humility. How can people stay open-minded about others' opinions without becoming offended or compromising their own beliefs?
Well, first you have to listen. Too often we walk into political conversations really already knowing what we want to say and feeling like we already know what the other side is going to say. Sometimes you just have to listen, and even if you disagree, which sometimes that happens, you at least need to know why the person thinks that way. And then you need to be willing to admit where you're wrong. If we go into conversations and we're never willing to admit where we got something wrong, then then we lose credibility, and the other person's always going to be on self-defense as well. So when we go into the conversation, say, hey, my side gets this wrong, I'm sorry, and listen to people, then we open up a true dialogue, and we just don't see that often enough today.
Humility and listening, great tips there. Justin Gibney with the AND campaign. Thanks, Justin.
Thanks for having me.
It's a good word. Well, from vaccinations to relief for the struggling economy. Up next, a closer look at the coronavirus crisis in America.
Want to be a part of a community that inspires your spiritual growth while winning prizes? The all-new CBN app. Connect with the community for prayer and encouragement. Track and set spiritual goals. Enjoy conversation starters with friends and family. And collect points to win prizes. The all-new CBN app. A great place to belong. Download the app at cbn.com/mobile. Grow, connect, have fun. The all-new CBN app.
On the home front.
Thanks for joining us for CBN's On the Home Front, where we highlight what the men and women of America's military do to defend our country. CBN honors the men and women in our military with an initiative called Helping the Home Front. It partners with churches across the country to meet the needs of their military families, from repairing homes to wiping out medical bills for wounded veterans.
Watch On the Home Front today at 2:30.
Too often, we carry baggage from our past. You know what it's like. It affects everything and everyone in our lives. It's always there, weighing us down and keeping us from achieving true happiness. But do you know God never meant for us to be trapped in the past? You can be free of your baggage. Learn how God's forgiveness leads to changed lives and new beginnings. Call the 700 Club.
Welcome back. While all eyes are on the Senate, on the other side of the Capitol, today the House Ways and Means Committee started the process of considering measures included in the COVID relief package.
It's part of the path of approval for President Biden's American Rescue Plan. Senior Washington correspondent Tara Merchner is here now with the latest. Tara?
John and Jenna, the committee is responsible for about half of the $1.9 trillion package, which Democrats are trying to rush through Congress.
Taking steps toward additional coronavirus relief, the committee is considering building on relief programs already in place, including direct payments of $1,400 per person, bringing total relief to $2,000 each, increasing and extending federal unemployment benefits through August, expanding tax credits targeted at workers and families, and reducing health care premiums for low and middle-income families.
Putting the American people first by advancing legislation to confront the economic and health challenges posed by COVID-19 and the pandemic.
This part of the plan will be combined with other pieces later this month as the legislation moves its way to the full House. Meanwhile, COVID numbers are going down across the board, and more Americans plan to get the shot.
I woke up just in time, and I'm so happy and thrilled to be here.
As pharmacies get more doses this week, local health centers are next. With some communities pushing to get more doses to minorities.
We have not been luck
lucky to get the vaccine until now.
The goal, boosting supply by 5% over the next week. The White House says since Biden took office, the number of vaccine doses being sent to states has increased to 11 million a week.
We're mobilizing teams to get shots in arms.
This as health experts keep a close eye on contagious variants, now reported in at least 39 states.
The biggest one are these two variants, the UK variant and the South Africa variant, both of which pose challenges, but I think our vaccines will work against both of them.
Meanwhile, the debate over bringing students back to the classroom continues. More CDC guidance is expected this week that focuses on COVID mitigation in schools rather than vaccinating teachers.
His plan, also due out soon, is expected to do the same. John and Jenna.
Thanks, Tara. A Zoom call sweeps the internet. The newest viral sensation when we come back.
Are you suffering from feeling tired or worn out during the day? Can you not turn off your brain at night? You are not alone. Hi, I'm Dr. Michael Bruce, the sleep doctor, and I've partnered with the Christian Broadcasting Network, and we're going to bring you some unbelievable information that you can use tonight to get a better night's rest.
Wake up to your best life. Call 1-800-700-7000 or go to cbn.com to get your free copy of Protect Your Sleep today.
Nutrition, exercise, essential oils, weight loss, and more. It's Healthy Living with Lori Johnson.
Talk about what's in this.
Join CBN health reporter Lori Johnson to get the latest information from today's top health experts.
This is fantastic.
Find out what you need to know to live a healthier life. Watch Healthy Living, Tuesday night at 9:30.
Woohoo! Hi, Superbook fans. Here's something else you'll love. Whoa! It's the new Superbook Bible app. It's packed with games, activities, and Superbook episodes that you can watch for free. Oh no! There's trivia, a fun daily devotional, and answers to your Bible questions. Plus, an easy-to-understand Bible the whole family will enjoy. You can even create your own Superbook character. Ta-da! Whoa!
The Millsburg Falls man coming.
Sorry, pardon me. Sorry, excuse me. Ouch!
Are you getting this?
Earn super points to win daily prizes too, and so much more. Time to get back to my adventures. See you soon. It's the new Superbook Bible app. Free downloads on iTunes, Google Play, and Amazon.
Young people, millennials, are flocking to church.
It's not an exaggeration to say that we love to meet them and that we love to know their stories.
Finally tonight, connecting virtually for work and for play.
Jenna, technology can sometimes fail us, and that was certainly the case during a recent Zoom court hearing when one lawyer had a little trouble with his computer connection.
I'm here live. I'm not a cat. Can you hear me, Judge?
I can hear you. I think it's a filter.
It is, and I don't know how to remove it. I've got my assistant here. She's trying to.
In the now viral video, attorney Rod Ponton logs into the court hearing with a cat filter instead of his own face. Millions have seen the video. Although people are laughing at his expense, something that he acknowledges, the Texas attorney says he's happy to bring people a bit of humor. Good sport there.
Yeah, you know, I thought the judge was so nice, so patient, kind of walking him through it.
Jenna, I think we should do a newscast in a cat filter.
Sounds good. Have a great night, everybody.
See you tomorrow.